Gusset.com/America Today.
Over the last year, Alex has told you about, and many of you have experienced, emergencies and disasters in unprecedented numbers. People have had to literally run for their lives. Folks, this is Steve Shank with eFoods Direct. I'm not here to scare you, but when disaster strikes, you won't have time to think. You must act automatically. What does a pilot do when the helicopter engine fails in flight? No time to think, just act automatically. When the alert is broadcast, the alarm sounds, or the knock comes on your door, you'll need to be ready to act without thinking of what to do or what you need. You need a 5-day extreme emergency kit. With serious supplies and real food to secure 2 adults for 5 days, this powerful $300 extreme emergency kit is free with an order of at least $995 from eFoods Direct. Go to efoodsdirect.com/Alex or call 800-409-5633. That's efoodsdirect.com/Alex. 800-409-5633.
You may be arrested and or subject to other police action.
Tyranny is here. The grim future foretold in 1984 has become reality.
It really says that the state is God.
The United States is now recognized globally as one of the most oppressive police states on earth. This film conclusively proves the existence of a secret network of FEMA camps, now being expanded nationwide. This documentary exposes how the continuity of government program has established an all-powerful shadow state. Police State 4 chronicles the sickening depths to which our republic has fallen. Prepare to enter the secretive world of emergency dictatorship. Body scanners, sound cannons, citizen spies, stage terror, and cameras on every street corner. It's only the beginning of the New World Order's hellish plan. The police state isn't coming. It's here. Secure your copy today at Infowars.com or see it online in the highest quality at PrisonPlanet.tv.
It's very simple. The globalists, the social engineers are testing us. Can they put taxes on salt? Can they tell us what we can have in a Happy Meal? Can they tell parents you're not allowed to pack your children's lunch, we don't trust you? Can they try to have the CPS take your children if you don't vaccinate them? Can they come out and raise the safe radiation levels of what they're saying is safe or normal from 1,000 times to 100,000 times, depending on what isotope? Can they get away with throwing this type of stuff in our face? That's what the system is doing. Now, there's some good news in all of this. We run Ron Paul's statements and editorials from his House website, and we posted it up on Infowars.com yesterday. It's been up on the Drudge Report, drudgereport.com, since last night, and we'll put the Drudge Report up on screen there. It's right below the article, Trump will ask voters to invest in White House bid. Under that, Ron Paul, the nanny state can't last, and if you click on that, it takes you to Infowars.com. And Ron Paul said, last week, Congress, the administration refused to seriously consider the problem of government spending, despite the fear-mongering and government shutdown would not have been as bad as claimed. Yeah, they cut a little less than $40 billion in stuff that was already agreed to be cut. Ladies and gentlemen, the banks have gotten us to sign on to over $1,000 trillion in derivatives. Nothing you get rid of, nothing you cut will have, even if you cut defense massively, none of it will even go towards beginning to pay down this debt until we say no to the 1,000+ trillion that the bankers have created through fraud that they've gotten government to sign on to. And then even if you don't believe economists like Tarpley and others we've had on that say it's 1.5 quadrillion, Washington Post last year says it was 640+ trillion. Ron Paul went on to say it's encouraging that some in Washington seem to be insisting on reduced spending, which is definitely a step in the right direction, but only one step. We have miles to go before we can even come close to a solution, and it will involve completely redefining the role of government in our lives and on the world stage. A compromise was struck at the last minute until Democrats agree to rein in entitlement spending, and Republicans back off the blank checks to the military-industrial complex in all amounts to political gamesmanship. And he goes on from there. Unfortunately, the compromises always seem to be just the opposite. Instead, on the left agreeing to cut social spending and the right agreeing to cut military spending, the right agrees to more welfare and the left agrees to more warfare. In spite of all this rhetoric, we will go deeper into debt. The Fed will print more money, the private Federal Reserve, and the value of the dollar will continue to plummet. How long will it be before foreigners stop buying our debt? Well, the Fed already has to buy 70% of it and monetize it. And hyperinflation arrives. Well, the head of Walmart says it's already arriving. Throughout history, empires have always overextended themselves through conquest and wealth transfers, leading to eventual collapse. From the Roman Empire to the Soviet Union, we are headed in the same direction, and it seems only the chaos of the collapse of the dollar will stop more spending. Arguing over funding for Planned Parenthood and NPR, though important, only shows that leadership in Washington either won't face reality or don't understand how serious the problem is. You can also hear the audio/video of Ron Paul's statement, and there's more that comes after that. He says, of course, an actual government collapse would create serious problems for many people who have come to depend on government payments for their health care, retirement income, but that's all been put into derivatives, and stolen. Their children's education, and even food and housing. However, these so-called entitlement programs are unconstitutional to begin with and have engineered a culture of dependence on wealth transfer payments that is out of control. And he goes on from there. Very important article by Ron Paul at Infowars.com. You can also find it at the Drudge Report on the left-hand side. The nanny state can't last. Well, it can't last in its current form unless they fully implode things and sell people on even more taxes, more regulations, more welfare, more control, and complete dependence. And then we'll be living in a full-bore tyranny, which is what the social engineers have been designing. And this is what they want. The central private banks want bankrupt nations, just like they've done it to third world countries. This is a system of economic conquest backed up by a paramilitary police state system. Now, going back into the TSA, if you will put up with them putting you in a high-powered radiation banker, which they now admit, depending on which machine, is 20 to 50 times what they'd previously said, and now it came out a few months ago in the Washington Post, that TSA had refused to give Congress, the real elected government, the radiation monitoring tests they'd done, and it turned out they hadn't done them at all airports under federal law. They'd violated OSHA and a lot of other radiology laws that are federal and on the books that any dental office or clinic or hospital has to follow on a weekly basis, not monthly. But the numbers they did get from spot checking on average were 10 times the radiation they'd even claimed because they're not calibrated correctly. 10 times the 20 to 50 times they lied about. So 10 times the 20 to 50 times. And you've got these TSA workers and we've had radiologists on to break it down, sitting by the only partially shielded x-ray machines looking at your luggage. Then right next to them are the body scanners that backscatter and splatter radiation. You add to that the cell phones, the nuclear testing, the Fukushimas, the Chernobyls. I mean, just from Chernobyl, 25 years ago in '86, the U.S., as well as the Northern Hemisphere, has double the radiation of the Southern Hemisphere. From one Chernobyl. Chernobyl was dirty compared to even an A-bomb. It put off conservatively, according to the IAEA, 400 times Hiroshima's radiation. Now they admit Fukushima is just as bad or worse. And again, we weren't being fearmongers a month ago when I said this is going to be as big as Chernobyl because I went out and interviewed the top radiation experts, the nuclear physicist, the former head of the Star Wars project. I went and did my research. And when they wouldn't release radiation numbers from those two prefectures, those two states, that told you what was happening. 3 weeks into it, they did release the numbers. 7.5 million normal times being dumped, normal radiation being dumped in the water. Such powerful fission going on that there were visible ion beams shooting out at night. You could see blue light. I mean, that's high-powered radiation when you can see it. Now you pull up radiation sickness. Their hospitals have been filled for weeks, but it's minor footnotes. Yes, the hospitals are filled with those with what they believe is radiation poisoning, and the doctors and nurses are refusing to treat them and are leaving because they don't want to be contaminated with their radiation. London Telegraph 2 weeks ago. But it's a minor footnote because in this mafia state, why not tell the parents they can't pack their kids' lunch because they're not trusted? Why not stick the government hands down the pants to train you? Why not steal the death benefits of the troops as they did 11 years ago and now admit last year? Why not tell you that, depending on the isotope, 1,000 to 100,000 times the levels they're raising and saying are safe? Why not? I mean, here's the news. Fukushima radiation taints U.S. milk supplies at levels 300 times higher than EPA maximums. And Natural News, linked at Infowars.com, links to the government's own websites. Here's KIRO-TV. Radioactive seaweed detected in Puget Sound. But don't worry, the government says, don't worry, it's safe. Even though they've raised it from a 5 to a 7, the highest level for a radioactive disaster at Fukushima. Here's another one. Japan ups Fukushima nuke crisis severity to 7, same as Chernobyl. Here's another one. Elevated radiation levels found in Ontario, energy minister says, up in Canada. The Star reports. Here's another one. And this is on major TV stations, major newspapers in Europe. And again, Mike Adams at Infowars.com from Natural News links to the European English papers. But you're not seeing this in our news. You've got to go to Infowars.com or the Drudge Report or Natural News to find this information. Europeans warned to avoid milk and vegetables due to high radiation levels. Now, Europe, let me explain. The jet stream is going from west to east. Okay? And so Japan's on the other side of the world, so it goes, even though you think of it in the east, it's actually going from the west to the east, across the Pacific, across North America, that's where we live, over Atlantic, over Western Europe, Eastern Europe, has now gone all the way through Asia back to Japan. And in Europe, that is, more than 10,000 miles away? Guys, pull up the numbers. England's distance from west to east. England's distance from Japan. I want to get that number. Was it 12,000 miles? I know it's more than 10,000. So we're only 4,000 miles, depending where you are on the coastline from Japan. It comes across the ocean in a radiation cloud, settles over the U.S., belching nuclear fallout and complete meltdown. One reactor 2 weeks ago had 70% meltdown. Explosions, all of this, just belching it. So bad they've pulled out the emergency crews over and over again, building up over the U.S., and they're saying, don't worry about your milk, don't worry about your fish, don't worry about your spinach, don't worry about your lettuce, don't worry about your grapes grown in California. But this stuff's in Vermont, this stuff's in New York, it's in New Jersey, it's in Florida. Every state's coming out with numbers. All of this is going on, but Europe is a lot further away. What we could do is just pull up a world map that has a miles meter and then just kind of, with a ruler or with your hand, go 3,000, 6,000, 9,000, 10,000. It's, because I want to find out from northeastern Japan, roughly, how far it is to England and then the coast of Europe, Western Europe. The point is, Europe is a lot further away from the fallout, and they're saying, their government's saying, like they did in '86, don't eat vegetables from the Northern Hemisphere. Don't eat grains from the Northern Hemisphere. Don't drink milk. Because that's where it bioaccumulates, and our media is just like, hey, it's fine. Federal government's not releasing numbers. State governments are. Europeans warned to avoid milk and vegetables due to high radiation levels. The radiation risk for Fukushima is no longer negligible, says the CRIIRAD, the French Research Authority on Radioactivity. It is now warning expectant mothers and young children because there's a many times more devastating effect on fast-growing cells, especially on fetuses and young children with radiation. I was correct. 11,000 miles from Japan going east, not back west over Eurasia, but going east over the Pacific from Japan to England. Thank you. So we're 4,000 miles away on the West Coast. They're 11,000 miles away, and they're saying don't eat it, especially if you're a pregnant mother or if you got a child. So the French Research Authority of the government is now warning expectant mothers and young children to avoid drinking milk or rainwater. They should also avoid certain types of vegetables and cheese due to the dangerously high levels of radiation they may contain, thanks to the radioactive fallout spreading across the globe. And it has a direct link to the French Government Radiation Authority. And they should know they got more reactors than any other country in the world. Japan's number 2. We're number 3. Russia's number 4. The French government now says that eating these items qualifies as risky behavior. And yet, in particular the same sentence, the organization claims there's absolutely no need for anyone to take iodine tablets. That's right. There's no